All right, everybody, it's time for another part of you know what is what if Krillin got the buff form, part 11. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And today we're going to be covering the resurrection of Frieza arc. That's right, ROF's here. And to do a brief tangent, just a brief summary of the last part, part 10, just so everybody can get a bit of a recap to understand what the heck's been going on in this scenario. If you're just tuning in and you may have skipped the other parts, by the way, there's a playlist. Just go check out the playlist. But a brief tangent. The Yosun Goku and his friends return special took place within this scenario. So Akka would be taken on by Krillin of all people, as Krillin would take on this warrior from space. However, we'd also go over the Battle of Gods movie, as Son Goku, a stronger Son Goku, mind you, not only took on Beerus on his King Kai planet and busted out the technique known as Super Kaioken briefly, but also with the stronger Son Goku, he would use Super Saiyan God to take on Beerus. He still lost, but that was expected. He's not going to be able to beat him anytime soon. However,
to give you
now
guys
we're
a
delving
brief
into
understanding,
Resurrection
Han would be
of F,
opening up his new
the
training
one-year
school,
gap
as mentioned in the
prior
prior
to the
part,
movie, real
training up
quick.
his
So
new
for those who are in the know,
and this would
and
cast the allure of Krillin, who began to think about this. One of his rivals opening up a school, and perhaps he began to think, maybe he should open up a school to carry on the ways of the Turtle School. Anyways, as priorly mentioned, Android 18 in the prior part became the world champion. However, a decision she would make over the few years is eventually to battle Krillin and anoint him the champion. Now, there's a great reason for this. While Android 18 could easily take the win in many tournaments, it is not exactly in her nature to be gung-ho about always fighting, and her husband here is more used to and willing to do the martial art tournaments more often. And at the end of the day, as long as one of them is bringing home the money, that's fine by her. So she and Krillin would battle, but it's not by any means she would hand it to him easily. They still had to fight for it as they'd battle at the next tournament, showing out in front of everybody until Krillin eventually won. In saying this as well, he began to put some of his tournament winnings after taking care of his family towards his dojo, as his dream to someday open up a turtle school began to manifest, slowly building the foundation and funding his new dojo. However, we're going to go on a brief tangent to go cover some of the others, like the Saiyans, real quick. Okay, as for Goku and Gohan, as they began to train for the world of the gods of destruction, they began to realize throughout the year that Gohan was not exactly fit for this. He did stay long enough to attain God Ki, however, he had much more priorities at home, so he would return to Earth after picking up God Ki as Goku furthered his training. However, he would still be doing some light sparring here and there with Videl, Goten, and Piccolo. Vegeta was itching to go with Goku and them, to go train under Beerus. However, he was weaker than his original canon counterpart, and also now has the issue is this. Without Sugar Mama Bulma here to help him bribe Whis and such with food, he does not really have a leg to stand on, per se, when it comes to trying to get training. At the moment, to keep himself busy, he decided to train up his younger brother Tarbal in order to get him access to the Super Saiyan and hopefully get him access to Super Saiyan 2. Also, Tarbal initially wanted to leave, but with all the strong warriors here, he figured it was best for him and his wife to stay here for protection. Anyways, he would manage to convince Beerus and Whis after so much begging and pleading. However, there was a catch. As we priorly remembered, in the anime, we've seen Vegeta relegated to essentially a maid taking care of Beerus' bed and cleaning after him. Well, he's going to be playing that role even more so in this version in order for him to be granted training. However, Vegeta does indeed get the training, and he would be tossed into the God Ki realm, of course. However, now it's a weird dynamic, as Goku's far ahead than where he was in his original counterpart, while Vegeta has to catch up to get to where he was originally. However, now I want to get back to the humans, and particularly as we cut over to Yamcha raising up his kid Trunks right here as they're both attending the gravity chamber upon Earth. However, also that interests Yamcha is the idea that Tien Shinhan has established a school and began to make him think about it, as he knows one day they're all going to retire, so perhaps should he establish a school of his own? Regardless of this, while that's in the back of his mind as he's training up his son in the Kaioken, another thing that's happening is a lot of the human fighters begin to return to the sacred world of Kais to seek further guidance and training from the Supreme Kai. Krillin, alongside Piccolo, would begin to meditate upon the sacred world of the Kais, began to clear their heads, breathing in and out as they seeked further tutelage under the Kais as they began to practice magic learned to them by the Kais and began to pick up certain techniques, trying to learn themselves the Kai. Krillin would also begin to practice his Destructo Disc once more, and as the training goes on, I do believe somewhat they would acquire some form of God Ki, because the Supreme Kais should possess some kind of God Ki, and I've seen a lot of scenarios written by others, they usually attribute the Supreme Kais to giving people God Ki. I do assume that most of you are understanding where exactly I'm building towards with this training of sorts. Anyways, regardless of this, as I previously mentioned, I have noted a few things from the scenario that even Chatsu and Yajirobe are training more. Now, why is this? Well, the truth of the reality is the encounter with Beerus, as most of the Earthlings and everyone on the planet realized, had Beerus had been an enemy and not seeked to give them mercy there, they would have died. Because even the God Goku transformation would not have been able to hold him. So this is why it kind of lights a fire under their butts. This is why they're training with the Kais. This is why some of them are starting to open up schools, trying to bolster the defenses of Earth as much as possible, in case that one day, if a threat ever came again, that they may be able to hold them off. Like, what if one day Beerus decides to destroy the planet? They need some kind of way to ensure safety. So that's why Earthlings are training harder than before. That's why Krillin has not retired as a fighter and not slacked off in his training. He has a wife and a daughter to look after. He has to train harder than ever. However, Krillin himself knew this would not be enough, as although he is powerful, he knows he needs much more. Yes, he has Kaioken, and yes, he needs his ultimate form, but he knows he needs to improve more. But he's also training in the meantime, as he and his wife have been rolling the roost of the World Martial Arts Tournaments as champion and runner-up, as they'd be bouncing the title between each other for the most part, just bringing in that income for their family constantly, and also improving in their skills, as they both mutually agree that this is for the betterment of their lives. No cop duty for Krillin right here, as this is his full-time gig as a martial arts champion. So no cop. Also, Piccolo throughout this time will be training for the 1 year, as he's working towards a new form now for 1 year. Frieza would arrive with 1,000 soldiers in tow, as the Z-Fighters had no choice but to fight off the Tyrant's army. However, unlike the original scenario, there's a lot more members here, with the addition of Yajirobe, Yamcha, Chatsu, Android 18, and Android 16, amongst others with the kids. Although, for the sake of the scenario, I have to mention that Trunks is a human in this scenario, not a half-Saiyan hybrid, as he did train with his father and he does know the Kaioken, but he's not the same Trunks you know. Also, Goten is stronger than he was the original canon. However, in saying this, they do not know the fusion dance. So, take it as it will. Even Tarble, who has just recently acquired Super Saiyan, would be amongst the fighters upon the battlefield, easily able to take on some of the fighters. As soon, all roars would be heard as a large red torrent would emerge from the ground as all the Z-Fighters announced in unison, Kaioken, as they took off, beginning to engage the 1,000 soldiers, as massive ki blasts would begin to erupt from the battlefield, firing from all around, lasers, Destructo Discs, just absolute explosions, clearing through them as Android 16 and Yajirobe would be clearing house through good parts of the masses. Master Roshi would be quite a prominent figure within this 1,000-soldier battle, as he would have a jar on the standby, as he would begin to annihilate many of the soldiers with his swift technique, Sleepy Boy technique, Thundershock surprises, Kamehamehas, as he would smack them with his stick, beginning to bulk up. First the semi-bulk up form, then full power Master Roshi, as he bulked up, absolutely tore house, as a massive Kamehameha could be heard. There would be various moments throughout the fight where Krillin, Android 18, the kids, and others would be having some great strides. Then Frieza's big guns began to appear, such as Taguma and Shushesh, as the large red warrior would square up. However, these two warriors would be quickly taken out within a brief span due to our stronger Z-Fighters. And then here comes the main event, Lord Frieza himself. However, don't count our Z-Fighters out just yet, just because this is a stronger Frieza. He's still in his first form, and this gives great chance for a lot of the Z-Fighters to pull off combo attacks, such as Krillin and Gohan charging up the Super Kamehameha and absolutely blasting Frieza, initially catching him off guard. The numbers game would begin to get on Frieza in his first form, as many of them began to pull off combos, with Gohan, a much stronger one, empowered by God Ki, would be leading the charge alongside Piccolo and Krillin, as Tien and Chatsu would fire off Jodan Rays, as well as Yamcha and his son Trunks firing off their own variants of the Spirit Ball technique, amongst others. Master Roshi in the weeds right now, waiting with the jar, just in case. as then the couple's Destructo Disc from Android 18 and Krillin would fly off into the atmosphere to tackle Frieza. He would narrowly avoid this. Gohan and Goten would fire off a Bros Kamehameha, as they would fire off in unison in their Super Saiyan transformations, absolutely careening towards Frieza, who had no choice but to transform into his final transformation, Final Form Frieza. Now with a much more powerful Frieza, there was a new strategy that came into place as Krillin would disappear from the battlefield, as all the other Z-Fighters would engage with him, as even Yajirobe, amongst others, would step up. Krillin would be charging up the Spirit Bomb. In the background, slowly by slowly, it began to enlarge within his hand, began to be empowered by the plants and everything within the earth. Slowly. He knows he needs to pull this off correctly if he wants to take out Frieza, to buy enough time for Goku and Vegeta to get here. As well, with the race against time, it's not going to be as massive as, say, the Super Spirit Bomb. Instead, it's going to be a bit larger than the first ever Spirit Bomb done by Goku against Vegeta, but not too much massive. He wants to condense and just gather as much as he can as possible without Frieza noticing him. So as the energy began to gather, Gohan and alongside Ultimate Piccolo would engage with Frieza. And then Krillin would fling the Spirit Bomb engulfing Frieza, as a massive tidal wave would engulf him. The Spirit Bomb began to shatter and began to pulsate around Frieza, began to be teared apart, as it were, at least that's what they thought, as then a brief glow would appear, a tornado of ki as a golden aura would explode. Here came Golden Frieza. It was an enormous skyrocketing of ki, and enraged Frieza would step out from his golden aura, absolutely infuriated at these Z-Fighters, having to show off the transformation as Krillin and Android 18 would engage with Frieza, smashing into him, as a brief scuffle would occur. However, Golden Frieza is on a completely different level. This is far worse than it was priorly, as his fist began to glow radiant gold, crackling in ki, as he would absolutely lay waste into our Z-Fighters, smashing them about. Piccolo would enlarge himself, facing off against Frieza in his ultimate form. However, the Emperor would begin to smash into the Namekian without mercy, absolutely battering him about as the Namekian tried to fend him off, alongside Gohan engaging the battle. Soon, Android 18 and Krillin would be back into the fray in a panic state without knowing much else they can do after the Spirit Bomb failed and all else. Krillin, in a desperate move, would pull off a new multiplier, the first in the scenario. We would hear the times 100 multiplier of Kaioken. An absolutely ridiculous multiplier that would not be busted out unless in these dire situations just as now, as a red torrent would explode, as Krillin's muscles practically were tearing off from the seams as he would engage, charging at Frieza. One by one, the Z-Fighters would be swatted to the ground from Tien to Yamcha amongst others, as Krillin would be careening through the sky like a lightning bolt charging at Frieza. He would be blitzed, however, by Golden Frieza, sending him back, as Krillin would almost get knocked out in one hit. He would then flinch and just barely get back up, as he would fly towards Frieza again, getting blitzed again, and managed to get one hit upon the Emperor, sending him back, although the Emperor merely laughed at him, for the multiplier gap was enormous. However, just in the nick of time, Goku and Vegeta would arrive. With this state of affairs, as Golden Frieza is already out, Goku would just cut the pleasantries as he would engage Frieza, transforming and revealing Super Saiyan Blue. However, in this scenario, Sorbet will not be able to get the blaster off on him, as Vegeta would quickly swat away Sorbet and absolutely kill him, leaving no trace of him. However, a brief pause would occur as Frieza began to laugh. Ho 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 ho! My, Vegeta, it's been quite a while. Where have you been all this time? Causing for a brief moment of pause as Vegeta looked away, not wanting to answer the fact that he was stuck in a jar for all these years. Causing him to interrupt Goku and Frieza's fight as Vegeta would want to intervene as he'd want to turn. After all, saying Goku got him on Namek, it's only right that Vegeta gets a turn, after all, as Vegeta would square up in Super Saiyan God against Golden Frieza. Although the only bad part about this is, as he is weaker than his original canon, Vegeta would be defeated in the end by Frieza. However, that would lead Goku to pull off the new transformation, Super Saiyan Blue, upon with Kaioken. Blue Kaioken would be an absolute stomp upon Golden Frieza, and alongside Vegeta, who would be joining in on the final attack because he would not let Kakarot get the sole kill upon Frieza. Both of them would engulf him in a godly Kamehameha and a godly Final Flash in unison, as then the tyrant would be no more. Golden Frieza would be wiped off the face of the earth. There we go. After this, training would resume as normal, as others would go their way. Piccolo would begin to tap in to his training a bit more, raising up Gohan a bit more early after this fight with Frieza, Like, hey, we need to get our crap together so the next time something occurs, we'll be ready for it this time. And then here comes the others. Tien, alongside Yamcha and them, would be starting up their dojos. Tien gained a bunch of new students earlier than the original canon right here, training them up, especially now knowing the Earth is going to need more defenses. This is going to be something that has to be worked upon long term, alongside with Yajirobe and Chatsu. As well, now covering Krillin. What is he going to be doing in the meantime? Well, I caved in just a little bit, as I was planning this in a degree, but I felt that some of you guys were asking, so I will say, yes, I know, some of you are going to get mad, some of you will be happy. So, he'll be joining them on Whis' planet, Goku and Vegeta, just for now. He's going to be tossed into the staff to go to the God Key Realm. We're going to see how this goes. If you guys like it, we'll continue with this angle. If not, we'll find an alternative. But in the meantime, he's going there. However, he's not always going to be there like Goku and Vegeta. He doesn't have the time for that, as he is the World Martial Art Champion. Whenever there's a tournament, he will be there, but in the meantime, he will have free time. And he can justify it's 18, like, he is training for his work. This is his job. And after the battle with Frieza, he can justify it. And also, due to his training with the Kais, he has access to Kai, instant teleportation. So whenever he has free time and such, he'll be able to go with them, and even convince some of them to train in the time chamber a bit, train alongside Whis and him in the time chamber. Whenever time is inconvenient, he'll be able to get a couple months or weeks worth of training under the tutelage of the Angel without having to leave too much of his life. Having said this is Jordan the Wolf. I just want to say I'm ending the scenario here, and I'll be signing out right now, guys. Peace!